I'm Fred Dawson. I'm the editor of Screenplays Magazine, and we have an opportunity to discuss a new development in the marketplace that could have a whole lot to do with moving the market forward with respect to the delivery of live content, online premium content in the so-called TV Everywhere domain, as well as through individual content providers, to enable a much more fluid consumer experience that's TV-like than we've ever seen before, as a function of a new way of doing security in live content. And we have with us representatives from NVIDIA, Irdeto, and Microsoft, each of whom are contributing a major piece to this solution that we'll be seeing in the marketplace over the year ahead. Let me introduce who's speaking with us right now. We have to my far left Paul Ragland, who is the Vice President of Sales for Americas with Irdeto. Irdeto, of course, is one of the leading providers of security in the premium content space, and they're bringing that expertise into this. Next to him is Chris Santini, who's the Director of Business Strategy for Security Business at Microsoft. And Microsoft is the provider of the key solution here, which is Play Ready Live. And finally, to my immediate left, we have Arnaud Perrier, who is the Vice President of Solutions for NVIDIA. NVIDIA, of course, is one of the leading suppliers of transcoding and streaming solutions in the marketplace. And now we're going to learn exactly what this is all about. So let me just set the stage a little bit, because this is complex. What we have in live streaming and with the content protection around live is a more challenging type of environment than we have with the traditional on-demand content that we've seen as part of the TV Everywhere solution up to now. And the big thing that's happening, of course, is TV Everywhere, if you want to call it that, multi-screen services is probably a better term, is going mainstream. TV is becoming multi-screen, in other words. And so that means live TV and a full lineup of channels when it comes to what a service provider is offering is becoming more or less mandatory as part of the whole game. And the question is, how do you get that solution out there in a way that really is compelling enough to get people to watch just as they would their normal TV channels? Let's begin by asking Chris to give us a sense of what Play Ready Live is all about and how it's different from what we've known about Play Ready in the past.
Okay, so Play Ready really started as a device-centric technology, primarily to service Windows endpoints, Windows Phone, and Xbox, and then we licensed it to over 1,100 people for iOS devices, Android devices, set-top boxes, and Blu-rays. And what we found in that device-centric type business, or a VOD business, there was some complexity to offering live, early window, and premium content by content owners that necessitated a new way to architect the solution, but then also a new way to go to market with partners to enable that TV Everywhere experience, making the tablets the first-class citizen of the TV, and giving the consumers what they expect from a live broadcast event.
Let's talk a little bit about what it is that's solving in terms of what the problems are before this solution has come into the market and what the challenges are. Paul, maybe you can illuminate that a little bit as to what we're dealing with in the live environment for a multi-channel distribution network that is quite challenging.
Yes, I mean, I think what you're seeing is an evolution in security to connected devices. We've been a long time service provider of Microsoft's DRM technologies, and we've seen Play Ready advance to a point where we're meeting a much higher level of consumer expectation by creating an experience that's much more fluid. There's less latency, and we're getting as close as we can to replicating what consumers expect in terms of experience that they have on the television set to what they have on these connected platforms. So this is a major innovation being released by Microsoft, and we have integrated it and are embracing it as fast as we can to help our operator customers compete as they migrate a lot of this programming to these platforms. This is just one more element that helps them compete. It makes the service stable, and it delivers on what consumers really expect right now.
So there's some specific challenges that this is meeting in that regard. I guess one of those has to do with the fact that because it's live content and it's high value, there's a need to be renewing the security on a periodic basis, which up to now has been a pretty manual kind of process. Is that right? So tell us a little bit about how that impedes the user experience as it's currently practiced.
Well, sure. At the best case, your content protection schema should be invisible or seamless to the end user. The challenge was really the experience wasn't presented to the end user because he couldn't secure either the content rights for high value content, or there were significant concerns by the service providers of being in risk of breach. And so what the specific features and functionality that PlayReady for Live TV enables, the key one is probably the automatic key rotation. The ability to rotate the keys as frequently as up to every 2 seconds. So if you have a very high value, say a sports asset, whether that's European football or Ultimate Fighting here, which seems to be very popular in North America, that's a high value asset. And being able to change those keys frequently to meet content owners' demands will then enable that piece of content to be displayed on a tablet, on a PC, as it is in those kind of more managed closed environments on a TV screen.
What about the issue of changing channels, if you will, in a live environment and making that like a TV kind of service when you do have to assign the security on that stream as the channel's being changed? Does this have some impact on that?
Yeah, I would say that from our perspective, we're not doing anything to add additional latency through that, the way we've architected it with Live. That's really a lot of the work that both Irdeto and Vivio have done to create that compelling experience. But from our perspective at Microsoft, we're enabling the content to flow to those devices, and then they're creating that experience that people expect.
Well, that brings us then, Arnaud, to it's exactly what it is that you guys are executing in the use of this solution to address the kind of issue I just mentioned and other issues.
First of all, both Irdeto and Microsoft have been long-time partners in the multi-screen market, and we've the way we went to market with this is fairly simple. Is we've had a number of common operators, cable operators, tier 1 in particular in North America and Europe, that have been using the prior version of PlayReady with Irdeto Q servers, and so far we were performing the encryption on the Halo on the NVIDIA Muse encoders or the NVIDIA Halo network video processing product, right? So what we did is we worked closely with Microsoft and Irdeto to implement a new PlayReady Live spec to turn on this key rotation feature, right? So it's simple, enhancements to the APIs between our Halo software product, right? The product that actually performs the encryption, so it takes the keys from the Irdeto servers, encrypts all those chunks, and sends them on to the clients, right? So that's the essence of the work we've done. From a user experience standpoint, the gain is significant because you really have to you obtain a seamless experience when you change channels, right? Prior to that, the client would have to restart a brand new session when you go to a new channel. So if you're on an iPad, you maybe have to wait for 10 seconds for that new channel to actually come up. It's not a TV-like experience, right? And from an operations standpoint, it was a big burden because you had up to now a fixed key for maybe a period of 24 hours on a given live channel, and the only way you could change that is in the maintenance window, maybe in the middle of the night, hoping that you affect as least users as possible, right? Manually change that key and leave it on for another day, right? And when you have to do that for hundreds or thousands of live linear channels in the MSO world, it just becomes impossible, right? And the contractual issue also is an impediment to that, right?
So in regard to the way in which PlayReady Live works across all these devices, there's some complexity involved there, right? As far as um, adapting whatever it is those devices require in terms of their native formats and DRMs and that sort of thing. So there's some pretty complicated processing that just goes into the execution of Play Ready across all those devices. Is that right?
Yeah, well, the way that the Play Ready works is that we provide a software development kit to our trusted partners, in this case, Irdeto, and they will take that software development kit and create unique client implementations based on their customer requirements, and do a lot of the hardening, a lot of the integration, the testing to then target a broad set of devices. From our perspective, we look to them to provide that kind of reach and that experience and engagement with those customers to deliver those solutions. Especially with the very high fragmentation in the Android market. I think there's over 10,000 different variations now of Android devices, but an end user or a customer just wants to watch what they want to watch with what's in their pocket. And so making that possible is actually through the hard work of folks like Irdeto that are able to deliver that on the broadest array of platforms for us.
So that raises an interesting question as to, you know, the tasks involved with different customers. Is this a matter of repeatedly working with each customer to develop an implementation of this solution that works for them, or is it pretty well baked in based on your use of the SDK that Microsoft has supplied in their first instance?
Well, I think Microsoft gives us the greatest device reach for platforms that they already exist on natively. They also offer the SDKs for us to embrace some of these trickier platforms to secure. But the SDKs are, you know, something we're very familiar with. Our integration teams can quickly deploy and secure those device platforms where the native components aren't resident. And so, you know, by having us, having these strong partnerships within Vivio, with us having the expertise and the knowledge and the relationships with Microsoft, we really can provide a complete solution to the operator for a large range of channels across the largest range of devices as well.
So it's fairly quick to implement. It's not some long drawn-out process on a per operator basis.
Some platforms are trickier than others and more susceptible to theft than others, and it requires a specialization and some development time. But for the most part, the more of these implementations that we deploy, the faster it goes, the easier it gets.
Has Play Ready Live been in the market long enough to get a feel for its impact on the licensing and how that's flowing? Because I know the licensing has been a big barrier as far as going live with TV everywhere.
So I think those are some of the legacy issues that we face. We've been evangelizing the ability to do live with Play Ready, with key rotation, blackouts, advertising insertion, with the largest mobile operators in the world over the last 18 months. What we found was the complexity of bringing the entire solution to market really was dependent on our relationships and our working with our key partners like Vivio and Irdeto. We solved one particular piece of the problem, but everything from the UI, UX, to the target device platforms, to the back-end infrastructure, to the content management systems, to the ad engine is involved. And so we're at the point now in the market where major cable operators, major service providers are bringing this to market, but that's really in connection with our partners through the total solution.
So this is where Halo comes in, because that's
right.
That's where it really gets complicated.
So I would say from an Vivio standpoint, it's a little bit easier than maybe on the Irdeto standpoint because they had to work on the client side, right? But for us, every customer, every operator who has using coding and Halo network processing software is a software upgrade. They already have Play Ready in place, over Apple HLS or Microsoft Smooth Streaming to a number of devices, right? It doesn't matter. We apply that software upgrade, in the data center, and they get benefits of the new Play Ready Live. So we just pretty much turn it on as a feature, right?
What is? But coming back to my question in terms of the impact on the content owners and the freeing up of the licenses as a function of these capabilities, and I'll ask for each of you to give me some sense of how this is going to impact the market in that regard. Paul?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to allow your traditional TV distributors to compete, to have a much greater depth of content, of premium content, maintaining a high level of security through a very advanced key rotation, and being able to deploy it in a very cost-effective manner, and enable them to compete against some of the new entrants in the marketplace.
Do you think it's going to have an impact on the licenses, though? In other words, are more content owners going to be prone to license the live distribution of their content by virtue of having this solution?
I think that you're going to see broad endorsement of this method of protection of live programming to gain probably the greatest amount of acceptance across the marketplace for serving connected devices.
Have you seen some real reactions and results?
Absolutely. So we work very closely with the major studios and major content owners globally, and some of their largest concerns are they have these very high value premium assets, sometimes titles that have cost them $200, $300, $400 million to produce. And in the case of sports, that's in many countries, that's the only monetizable asset for those network providers and content owners. Mm-hmm. And their reticence to provide that to a broad set of people and a broad set of devices was because they were concerned about the security. Every major service provider and studio person that I've talked to over the last year is very bullish on this, and then our ability to then go down market and downstream to a number of devices to it, which before they wouldn't touch. They felt good about maybe doing it on Windows or on the Xbox and maybe a closed environment, but they were very leery about the Android platform in particular, just because of the fragmentation and the potential surface area of risk there. But now they have a much higher degree of confidence, and that goes for all the major content owners, whether it be sports or premium movies. Highly interested in using this to then go to market and then be able to monetize that, because that's the other piece too, is they were missing out on a major market opportunity. The time that a new release is in the movie theater is relatively short. But that long tail opportunity on devices was unattainable to them because they were leery to put it on those things, right? So that was kind of a chicken or an egg thing, which we feel that we're collectively solving now.
So
that's exactly right. I think you hit the nail on the head. We've had the same feedback from our MSO customers. They've been actually holding off from rolling out a certain number of premium channels, especially sports content, because of the limitations, the prior limitations in security, right? So, and now that we have Clarity Live, one of the reasons they're actually implementing Clarity Live is to launch those high values live sports channels and others. And the other element is you said it right, is the monetization. One thing is to secure it, but the other thing is you have to enforce sports blackouts. You have to be able to do targeted ad insertion in the right way on a per user basis on these channels, right? And the fact that the Clarity Lab has this already baked in the framework is key to enable those channels. Right?
Well, then I guess we could do a little speculation on what this is going to do in the marketplace, and let's start with what, if any, customers you might have that are interested in this, and what kinds of customers you're talking to about this, Paul.
Well, I mean, as a service provider, a security services provider, our main market is the traditional television operator. I think that any MVPD with large volumes of linear content, broadcast content, are going to be be first in line to take advantage of this new innovation. This is critical to their business. It's critical to their future, and that's where it belongs first. But it applies to any live streaming service online.
Anybody biting at this point?
I think we have deep-seated relationships with your tier one, cable companies in the United States. Naturally, being in the security business, can't mention specific names, but it's a pretty small group of suspects, and that's who's active testing and deploying this new innovation.
So, with your view of this setting the stage and being what the market needs. In the year ahead, are we really going to see now this blossom as the way that the big service providers move ahead and free them to get moving with this and have an agreement with the license holders as to how to divide up the pie and figure all this out? Are we at a point where that's finally going to be resolved? And Paul, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think that, even though it's still relatively, early days in the process, it is happening. And as those legal issues are worked out, the content is starting to flow at a very large volume. And, this is just the next step in evolution in making the services stable and making the experiences as bringing it to the highest quality possible. That's what we're seeing right now.
Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think this solves a huge problem for both the service provider trying to meet consumer demand, but the content owner having stringent requirements to go along with that. And we've seen very fragmented, rights based on big screen, little screen, medium screen. Mm-hmm. Right? Whether I have the rights for this sport in France but not Belgium, or I have it in Belgium but I don't have it on tablet. And that was actually impeding both the customer experience but also the ability to go to market. And so this really unlocks a lot of that. Now there'll be other challenges, whether it's next versions of operating systems, which we feel confident that partnerships with Irdeto will solve for, but this will not be that issue or problem or concern. And so we'll all be able to kind of participate in that. Most notably, those content owners will get more value out of their content, and service providers will deliver really compelling end user experiences, regardless of form factor or device type.
Well, this is the linchpin, right? I mean, this is where the rubber hits the road as to the future of pay TV. And so what you guys are doing here should be a real bellwether as to where we're going to be in the next few months.
That's right. I think there's already a great example in the market of what's to come. And have you heard of the BSkyB's Sky Now service?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great example of leverage. How an operator can leverage advanced features of over-the-top video to provide a broadcast-like TV service to other devices. They've done it extremely successfully, with going to devices like Roku or Xbox, right? And they were afraid because of the quality that we provide. Actually, the quality of experience that we provide on that platform is as good or even better, is what they've told us, than their broadcast DTH platform. So there's some controversy that it would even cannibalize their existing pay TV service. But what's happened in reality is it's opened up a new market that they didn't have before, because a new demographic of younger people that didn't want to pay £90 a month for the DTH service are now signing on to the Sky service. Maybe they pay £20-30 a month to get the same channels on their Xbox, and it's more subscribers. Right, it's growth, and it's a beautiful experience, and I think you'll see the exact same things happening in the U.S. Very soon. Right?
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, we have along with Irdeto and Microsoft, we have one tier 1 cable MSO in the U.S. and another tier 1 MSO in Europe, just about to roll out Play Ready Live in the next few weeks. So we're getting ready to get that done.
Well, I'm glad you shared that with us.
Yeah.
So now we have something really to look forward to. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. This has been very informative and a pretty optimistic view of what's ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.